Coming up next on Parent Connection, a conversation with Shannon Bottom from Waugh Chapel Elementary School. Welcome to Parent Connection. Our guest today is Shannon Bottom from Waugh Chapel Elementary School. Thank you so much for joining us, Shannon.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in a small town in North Dakota. I met my husband at a wedding and been following him around to about 7 different states over the years. And about 3 years ago, his job brought us here to Maryland. I have a 17-year-old sophomore at Arundel High School, a 15-year-old freshman at North County High School, and a 9-year-old son at Waugh Chapel Elementary.
So you really do have children all over the county.
Yes.
Well, that's the advantage of some of our magnet programs, that people can go where they want to go. So
Yes.
Tell me, how did you get started volunteering in the county?
I've actually been volunteering since my oldest was born. It's just something I really enjoy doing, and when we moved here, I just started asking the teachers and staff, what I can do to help out, and little by little they gave me more and more, and I've earned their trust, and now volunteer every week, sometimes every day, every week.
Well, we need volunteers so much in our schools, and I know that our teachers really depend on volunteers. I think you brought up a really important part, that sometimes you do have to prove yourself to the teachers and to the school.
Yes, and I see it sometimes even when I'm volunteering. I'll be in the copy room making copies, and a teacher will come in, and I can tell, he is a little stressed out because their volunteer, at the last minute something has come up and they aren't able to make their copies. And of course, it's so nice to be able to just jump in and say, hey, let me make those copies for you. You need to go do what you need to do. But there's never enough volunteers. These teachers, they work so hard and they do so much every day, and it's so amazing to see this when you go in and you help out and you see how much they actually do. That there can never be enough volunteers to help the staff out.
And I think that is really eye-opening when you are in a school. You get to see the runnings of the school, and the students are going to be there every day, and the teachers need their work prepared. So sometimes that's why you kind of have to prove yourself, because sometimes they want to make sure they know that they need the materials that next day, whether somebody else makes them or they make them. So it's really great that you came in such a strong volunteer and starting. What kind of volunteer jobs do you do at Waugh Chapel?
At Waugh Chapel, I copy every week for a couple different grades, different staff. I laminate, cut things out. I volunteer at field day. I volunteer on picture day.
All of the critical things in the school.
Anything they ask, I'm always willing to help. They took the drown-proofing field trip. 5th grade went, and they're not able to go if they don't have enough volunteers. So I was able to help them 3 of the 4 days this year. 5th grade has done some fundraisers. I was able to help them sort one of their fundraisers out when that came in recently.
Well, what are some of the volunteer things that you've enjoyed the most over the years?
I actually enjoy all of it. Volunteering is so rewarding from what I get out of it. It's so nice to see how you benefit somebody else. I mean, if you think about it, a time back when you had a lot on your plate and somebody said, hey, let me do that for you, and you're like, oh my gosh, that is such a relief. That is such a good feeling, knowing you've given a teacher a relief.
Right.
And being in the schools, and I watch the staff interact with the children, and the staff puts our kids first. It's so amazing. It doesn't matter how much work they have. If everyone's going to PE and they have a kid that needs some extra attention, that staff will take their time, their planning time, and help this kid out. So that's another reason why it's so critical to get more volunteers in there to help, because this staff really does put our kids first. I mean, they'll stay after or come in early to finish up as clerical work, the copying, cutting, laminating they need to do, because they do put our kids first.
And I think that is what, as a volunteer, you really get to see that inner workings of a school and all the little moving parts that are going on, because there are so many moving parts all the time and so many different things happening. I know one of the things that you've done is some one-on-one math help.
Yes.
And how do you like that as opposed to working with the large groups or just doing things? How do you enjoy working with one-on-one with students?
Oh my gosh, the one-on-one's incredible. It's like working with your own kid. You get in there and, you know, this child was struggling in math and it was really hard, you know, in the group setting to get where she needed to be and learn what she needed to do. So I was able to work one-on-one with her, and by the end of the school year, like, I was so excited where she ended up, and she was so excited. It was just, it's an amazing, incredible experience.
Well, I think that kind of goes to our philosophy of we are better together.
Yes.
And building the relationships. One of the things that our superintendent and our board really wants to get across to the public and to employees is that you really can't be successful if you haven't built relationships with people. And that's when people start to trust you, whether it's the teachers or whether it's the students.
Yes, I have a story to go along with that. I was overwhelmed at the middle school one day. I was helping out in a classroom, and a kid he wasn't doing his project and he was struggling. So I went over and sat with him and I said, like, well, let's take it one step at a time. You know, you're overthinking this, you're
Right.
stressing out over it, and let's just go one step at a time. Let's do break it down, make it really easy. And he turned and he looked at me and he said, why do you care? He's like, I'm always getting in trouble and doing things I'm not supposed to be. So he's like, why do you care? You care that I do this. I said, I do care because you need to turn this in. You know, you have to understand your teacher has 28 kids in here. She can't come over and sit one-on-one with you. It's really hard for her. So it was a neat to hear a kid say that.
That's so much we know when children feel that someone does care for them.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, that our students really don't necessarily distinguish from a paid person at the school and an unpaid person at the school.
No.
It's just a caring adult.
Exactly. That's another reason they need more volunteers. It is so hard for a teacher, you know, when you have 25, 30 students and you have kids that do need one-on-one or, you know, 1-on-5 help.
Right.
The teacher unfortunately doesn't have that time during the school day because they do have to make sure all the kids are learning.
And I like that you said too that was at a middle school level, because so many times, you know, we have these active volunteers at the elementary level, but then as their students go to middle school and high school, they pull back. And we really do need people. It might be in a little bit different capacity, but we need volunteers.
Yeah, I don't have a middle schooler, but I do help out at Arundel Middle every week, just because they do need help. I mean, those staff go from having just 25 or 30 kids to 120 because they do have 6 classes a day of different kids, which adds to their workload.
Well, that's really the point that we try to get across to people, that you know, come to the middle school. You don't have to be in your child's class. You probably aren't not going to be in your child's class, but there's so much that's still needed, and at the high school as well.
Yes.
And I know lots of times at the high school level, parents get involved in whatever their child's, whether it's drama or music, band, sports. So it's a different type of volunteering there.
Yes.
But there's a big role to play.
Definitely, yes. There's opportunities at every school. Every school could definitely use more volunteers.
Is there one thing that you've enjoyed about volunteering more than the other? What are some of the experiences that you've liked best?
So, you know, tutoring one-on-one, just watching a child grow and learn so fast when they were struggling, it's an incredible feeling you get. I love seeing the teachers interact with the kids. You know, coming in and out of the school, picking your kid up or having lunch, you don't get to see that, but to see how caring the staff is, and it's amazing.
How do you think the schools and the students have benefited from having you there?
I hope that I take some, you know, a little bit of stress off the teachers, which gives them more time to do their planning or grading or focus one-on-one with the student when they have time. And I, you know, hope from the one-on-one tutoring I've done, I've helped a child be able to progress to the next level with a lot less issues.
Well, you've done a lot around park as well, or park testing.
Yes.
Tell us some of the things that you've done to just to maybe make park a little bit more fun, or a little take the stress level, because you know, even though we say try to get children not to stress about it, not think about it as much, it becomes very stressful for them, those standardized tests.
Yes, it is, and a lot of times they're taking a test in the morning and a test in the afternoon at elementary school level.
Right.
So at Waugh Chapel, I've helped them, the kids all get like a snack or a little treat every day to try to help them, because you get hungry and you lose your focus. So I've helped sort those per teacher, so make sure every kid has something. I've donated, the last 2 years I donated little goodie bags for the teachers, because it's, you know, stressful for them too. I include some snacks and a drink in there for them to help get through park testing. And then at the end of each grade, because they don't all test at the same grade, like
Right.
When, say, third grade finishes up and they've done a great job, the school holds a little celebration for them. So they get to come in the gym and they get to have like a little float, and they play some music, and the kids get to dance and just kind of release, you know, all that stress they've had for the week. So I volunteer and help make sure that runs.
Well, that's like really important, and it also is another opportunity for children to see you giving back and
Yeah.
see, you know, you there trying to help them and trying to take the stress. I love the idea of the park bags, the little de-stress bags for teachers,
Yeah.
because we focus on the students so much that lots of times we don't think about the stress that that teacher is going under when they're doing standardized testing as well.
Yes, it's stressful for both of them.
So that was really nice. I know they really appreciate you doing that as well.
Yes.
Now, how do your kids feel about you volunteering, and what do you think they've gotten out of that?
My kids love it. Like I said, I've been volunteering since my first child was born. So it's a natural part of my life, and I love to see that they tend to follow in my footsteps. My oldest is actually an Eagle Scout, and when he finished his Eagle project, he actually said, "Mom, you know, I don't need a ceremony. That's not what it's about. What I did. It's about, you know, giving back and making sure, you know, people are giving back." So I would love that I'm setting an example for my children to hopefully, you know, one day be able to give back to the schools.
That's great. And I think, although sometimes our children might act like they don't really want us there,
Yes.
they really do want you around, and they really
Yeah.
do want to see you there. You know, as they get older, they're not going to acknowledge you, I should say. You know, they may not acknowledge you,
Yeah.
but they still are happy that you are helping. And I think
Definitely.
your son being an Eagle Scout speaks volumes to that.
Yeah, I know the one time I was going to set up a teacher appreciation luncheon at the high school, and he was like, "Mom, you know, you're going to embarrass me being there." But then when they actually see, they're like, "Oh, my mom's here. That's so cool. My mom's helping out the teachers, giving them lunch."
Right, yeah, I think that too. I think because you started it at such a young age, and it's always been a part of their life, that's something that as they get older, they'll be volunteers too, and it won't even be something that they consciously have to think about.
Exactly. I want them to give back selflessly, because that's what volunteering should be.
Yeah, and that's a great statement. I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, how do you think it's changed you or benefited you to be volunteering? Because you really have been a full-time volunteer for all of these years.
I think it benefits me in a positive way. It's so uplifting to witness how the staff treats these children at school, and how they put everything, you know, whatever they have going on in their personal life aside, and make that child feel like they're so important. I leave there just so positive and motivated. And the volunteers that I've met at the schools they're amazing, incredible people. You know, they do the same thing I do. They give selflessly.
Well, I think that's good when you also make relationships with other people. That's when my children were young, the children's parents that we met during school, and that's who we're still friends with today. And you know, my children have grown and have their own children at this point.
You find people that have the same values
Right.
that you do.
And interest. One of the things I find very interesting, you said you had been to 7 different states prior to here. So did you volunteer in those states as well?
Yes, like I said, I started actually volunteering when my oldest was born. My husband and I decided that me staying home and raising the kids was more important than my income. And so I joined a mom support group. It was called MOPS, Mothers of Preschoolers.
Oh, yes.
And so when I joined, I realized people had brought me a lot of dinners when my son was born because he was sick when he was born. And it was just so helpful and such a relief. So I actually started a dinner delivery program for moms in the program that were having children. I'd set up, the Sign Up Genius wasn't invented then, but it was
Right.
kind of like Sign Up Genius, where you sign up and you bring a meal, and that's where it all started, and I enjoyed it. And you know, I volunteered at Scouts, gymnastics booster clubs, preschool. It's just snowballed.
Well, that sounds wonderful. And MOPS is still, of course, going on today, and I think it's a great support for people who are first-time parents or parents with toddlers. You need that support, and sometimes you know, you feel very lonely at that point.
Yes, definitely.
So does volunteering look differently at different states or different school systems, or is it kind of the same no matter where you are?
I think it's kind of the same no matter where you are. I think, you know, just across the United States, teachers need help. They do a lot in their daily schedule. They don't have your typical 9-to-5 job where they can just come in, do what they're, you know, this is your task for the day and go home. And I mean, they have days, you know, where things happen in their classroom and it puts them behind, and they need that help, just copying, you know, helping a student get to where they need to go. There's so much that can be done to help the
Just
staff.
that extra pair of hands at a school
Yes.
is unbelievable, because you don't think about all of the things when you're moving children from one room to the other, or they're going to lunch or recess, or you know, like you said, the part where you pull them out to small groups or individually, that is invaluable to the student, because everybody learns differently.
Exactly.
So some children do wonderful in the whole class setting. You know, they don't need that one-on-one, but for the ones that do, it changes their path in life and their academic success.
And it makes them feel important. I actually volunteered in first grade for a teacher when she did her math rotations. So they would break up into about 4 different groups, and I would come in and I would help do one of their math rotations, and I would just sit there, and if the kids were doing like flashcards, I would work flashcards with them. And the kids would get so excited, just, you know, having that it was 5-on-1 interaction, but, you know, they were like, wow, this is special.
Well, I've seen, we've had volunteer groups come in sometimes, and they'll do, like, their whole focus might be on math facts, you know, where they just work one-on-one with students and build that relationship, make sure the student feels comfortable, and, you know, goes through, or certain other math problems they're having. Reading is another big one. Reading for fluency, reading for comprehension, different styles or different things that particular student might need help in.
Yes.
If a volunteer can just spend that time with them, and sometimes the volunteer's reading, sometimes the student's reading, but you know, going back and forth, that they may not have that at home.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed, is what we don't realize is the diversity of backgrounds that we come from. And there are a lot of students that do need help, and unfortunately not everybody is in a situation where they can stay home, or they, you know, have a job where they're home when their kids are home to be able to help them. So to be able to come into the schools and help these children, it's...
And I think for people watching today, thinking about how can I help, you know, that's one of the things. Sometimes they're intimidated to go in schools because they might think, oh, it's the same moms, or it's a clique of people doing it. But honestly, schools are welcome to anyone, you know, whether it's a grandparent, whether it's a retiree that recently left work and is looking for something to do. One of the other things I always talk to volunteers about is make sure that what you're doing is something you enjoy. Because if they gave you something at Waugh Chapel that wasn't, you know, in your wheelhouse, let's say, or something you just didn't really enjoy doing. Maybe it was something where you didn't have any interaction with people. You need to let the volunteer coordinator or staff liaison know, because we want our volunteers to get something out of it too. We want them to love what they're doing, and people won't continue to volunteer if they don't love what they're doing.
Yes, exactly. Waugh Chapel has a great program. Miss Doherty, at the beginning of the year, everyone gets a letter, and you can put on there, this is what I prefer to do. And then she tries to include you in that when they need help. Say, hey, would you like to, you said you like to read with children. Would you like to help out during reading with children?
That, and we encourage people to do like job descriptions, and I think that might be something that we could utilize volunteers to help schools with, to actually, some of the jobs that you do, create a job description, so that then for the next parents that come in, or new parents every year, those kindergarten parents or pre-K parents that are new to the school, they can kind of see, oh, here's the description of the job. This is how many times I would need to volunteer, whether it's weekly, monthly, hourly, however it is, but they could see what the commitment would be, because that's the other struggle we have, is matching that commitment with the task.
Yes.
Like you said, you do copying and things. Well, the teachers know that they can trust that you're going to come in and do that.
Yes, they know I'm reliable. I do anything. I rearrange my schedule if I have to. Just like I go in every Thursday, I go to the middle school. They know I'm going to be there by 1 o'clock. I'm going to get my work done, and I have a set schedule every Friday also, in between. But even if you just have like 1 hour a week, 1 hour here and there, their school is always willing to take help.
Right, and we understand that everyone can't volunteer. Some of people, their schedules, they're working 1 or 2 jobs. It's something, and that kind of goes back to that. It takes a village, that all of us can help people who can't be there for their children.
Yes.
On the daily basis. I mean, they're there at home, but we could be there to give them that extra support.
Yes, and I know at the middle school, there's been jobs that have come up, and an email's been sent out. Hey, we have this stuff that needs cut out. Does anybody have some time? We can send it home with your child, and then you can just send it right, back in when you're done.
And I really love that when schools do kind of the take and bring back ideas, like whether it's cutting out laminated things, or doing Dibbles books, pulling books apart or putting them together, whatever, like you said, typing up the newsletter at home, whatever it is, that the people that are at home, there are opportunities for you to still volunteer.
Yes, definitely. You
so
just
I think
have to ask.
Right, just making the connection with the school and asking them. And the other thing is talking to parents like yourself. I'm sure you'd be willing to share what it's
definitely.
like.
I've met some great volunteers at Waugh Chapel that have some kids moving into middle school next year, and I've already been like, you would be so great volunteer, because they are really good volunteers and reliable.
So how do you think you've benefited? What's the benefit to you of volunteering all of these years?
To me, it's giving back. I don't believe in it's about the house you live in or the car you drive in. It's what you give back. You want to leave that legacy, and helping people out, it's so rewarding.
And I know that certainly the staff at Waugh Chapel, who nominated you for Volunteer of the Month, and who really spoke to so many of the things that you do, that I know you weren't comfortable coming on talking about the things that you do.
No.
And most volunteers don't. That's not why they're doing it, to get the credit.
Yeah.
But it's nice to recognize volunteers once in a while for some of the great things that they do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, I don't do this for the recognition. It's the teachers and the principals that deserve the recognition. They do the hard work. I just give them a little assistance on the side.
So if I'm a volunteer and a person at home and I've never volunteered, how do you start that? What would you say to them? Who would they call? What would they do?
I would start, with your teacher, your child's teacher, and say, hey, I have this time available. Even if it's just maybe every other Wednesday from 2 to 2:30, they might be doing math where they could use some help during math facts. And your teacher, if your teacher doesn't have anything, you can reach out to the school, maybe ask one of the secretaries, and they can get you in touch with somebody. Like, I don't personally just volunteer for my teachers. There are a lot of staff members that do need help, but definitely start with your teacher and go from there. And they may have another teacher in the same grade that says, I actually don't need any help, but Mrs. So-and-so
Right.
could really use some help.
And I think that's important when you want to volunteer at the school, especially if you have children in the school, to know that sometimes you're not going to be working with your child or your child's class.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better because then you get to meet other people and you get to do other things and your child still has their independence. But sometimes people just think that they can only volunteer in the class.
No.
But we have the media center. That's another huge area that we always need help in. And I used to work in a media center years and years ago, and I loved the idea when the kids all came in and checked out their books and checking books in, doing the books back in for them, or even on picture day.
Yes.
Maybe you could say, I can only do 1 or 2 days a year, or going on field trips, something like that.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
I'm sure you're utilized for field trips and things like that all the time.
Yes.
But I really want people to hear your story. We appreciate everything that you have done for the students of Anne Arundel County Public Schools and your own 3. And I know you're going to continue. Luckily, having one still at the elementary level gives you, or us, I guess, you for years to come.
Yeah, I don't know that when he's done there, I'll be done there, though. That's how much I enjoy it, and getting to know the staff. They're just amazing people. It's so nice to be around people like that.
And that really speaks volumes. Like you said, you don't have a child at the middle school, but you still volunteer there. And I think the relationships you've made at Waugh Chapel, you're probably still going to volunteer there.
Yeah.
But that shows people how rewarding it really is.
Yes,
and what you get out of it.
You get to see a different side of the staff. I think as a parent, when you just have parent-teacher conferences, you go back and forth between emails, you don't get to really know and understand the staff and what all they do. So being in the school, you gains a lot of respect for what these teachers and principals do.
Well, thank you so much for all that you've done for all of the schools in our county, and we really appreciate having you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. Until next time.
The Cafe at Maryland Hall is a collaborative venture between Anne Arundel County Public Schools and Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts. The culinary arts students of the Center of Applied Technology South not only prepare the wonderful food items, they also manage and staff the cafe. Patrons may enjoy a treat or a cup of coffee while also enjoying exhibits and performances from artists in the AACPS PVA program and local art community. This amazing collaborative partnership gives the community an opportunity to experience awesome food and customer service in a rich, artful atmosphere here in the community's Art Center, our vibrant and exciting Maryland Hall.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Porter. Anne Arundel County Public Schools Department of Transportation is raising the level of awareness for the safety of your children as we transport them to and from school. When a school bus stops to load students, as a driver, this is what you will see. At 150 feet, the bus will activate hazard lights. At 100 feet, the bus driver will activate the amber lights. They will start slowing down. At 10 feet before the bus stops, they will turn on the red bus lights. Their stop sign will come out, and students will begin to load. Once all students are on board safely, the bus driver will turn off red lights and move forward. At this time, it is safe for the motorist to resume movement.
The new kindergarten, first, and second grade curriculums are designed to engage students in a variety of learning opportunities that involve collaboration, conversation, and creativity. One learning block that is devoted to movement and healthy minds and bodies supports a cooperative classroom and a feeling of connectedness. In Move, 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 Healthy Minds and Bodies, activities support oral language development and prepare the brain for new information. The use of repetition and movement offers an opportunity to review content across various learning blocks. The positive effects of physical activity on the young brain provides a focus and a readiness to learn.
Ready?
Ask your child how Move, Move, Move helped them learn today.
Run! Excellent, boys and girls.